What's going on, Ambitious Vet? Welcome to episode number 55 of the Ambitious Vet Show with Marine veteran, marketer, and Chief Marketing Officer at Into Growth, Dan Evans. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet, where we believe if you desire more, you have to become more. My name is Chris Hoffman, Marine combat veteran turned passion-driven entrepreneur. On this show, I dive into the trenches with today's top military veteran thought leaders and influencers who know what it takes to not only pay the bills after the military, but really make an impact. You're going to hear their stories, their failures, and golden grenades to empower you to execute on what matters most in your life right now. How many times have you thought there was more to life than what you're doing right now? But you just don't know the first step in identifying, executing, and accomplishing it. For example, are you waking up doing the same thing every day? Maybe you're feeling like you're in a mundane routine, but hey, you're telling yourself at least you're paying the bills and you're keeping food on either your table or your family's table. Look, I got it. I've been there. I know what to do, and I can show you the proven frameworks to creating that impactful and that fulfilling life post-military. Remember, I'm the guy that started out of the Marine Corps with a wrestling mat and a school desk to his name in an apartment he couldn't afford. Then from there, 2 years out of that circumstance, I created 3 jobs where I was time broke and passion broke, but I was bringing in $6,000 a month. Guys, I want you guys to narrow the gap in your failure and really narrow the gap in where you're at to where you want to go in accomplishing your next mission. Look, I've invested over $50,000 in my personal and professional development, spent the past 7 years investing and incubating my skill sets to bring this to you guys, and leading and coaching the top leadership programs for an international personal and professional development company. I'm a best-selling author, and I want you guys to use me up. Guys, if this just speaks to your heart just a little bit, if you're looking to narrow the gap from where you're at to where you want to go in your life, if you're looking to leverage frameworks, learn lessons, other people's failures, and ultimately their intellectual bank to narrow the time gap and where you're trying to go, I'm requesting you schedule a 30-minute strategic call with me to where we can identify that next mission and start mapping out how do we go from where you're at to where you want to go. I look forward to chatting with you soon, and I'm only taking 2 more one-on-one coaching slots right now. We can talk more about the details when we chat, but I'm looking for the few that are listening to my voice right now that are really looking and seeking what is it going to take to live that impactful life post-military. If that's you, click the link in the comments below. I'm excited to connect with you. We'll chat with you soon.
Hey, this is Steven, host of Knucklehead Podcast, and you're listening to the Ambitious Vet Podcast with Chris Hoffman.
What's going on, Ambitious Vet? Again, I just want to go ahead and start this episode out by just thanking you for who you are. I mean, if you're a veteran that's listening to this, you're someone that's getting out, that's not living in your glory days, and you believe that the glory days are still in front of you, and you're not sitting down, throwing your proud Marine Corps veteran hat on, and you're just, allowing life to just kind of pass you by on a daily basis. In fact, you may be throwing that Marine Corps proud veteran hat on, but you're still out there in the trenches figuring out how do you get better. And if you're that person that's listening to this, I just want to thank you for who you are, because you're the one out there setting the standard for other people to follow and showing how high quality an ambitious vet is. When we get out, we believe in ourselves and we're constantly looking to improve. So thank you for not only joining this episode, but who you are inside the trenches. I'm excited to introduce today's guest. Today's guest is Dan Evans. He serves as the Chief Marketing Officer at Into Growth. He specializes in evangelizing the Into Growth brand to support the acquisition and development of high-performing leaders for and on behalf of their clients. Prior to joining the executive team, Dan served as a director of social business strategy at USAA. During his tenure, he founded the USAA Personal Brand Academy, an employee advocacy program designed to help employees build their personal brands and authentically showcase their employee experience across social media channels to attract talent. Most recently, Dan led a team of enterprise consultants who partnered with his lines of business to bridge internal and external digital marketing initiatives through research, strategy development, and the development of social media capabilities. Dan is also a 13-year veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps who started his career as an infantry rifleman and rose through the ranks to become the first ever social media marketing director for the recruiting command. Dan frequently traveled throughout the United States, training senior military leaders and representatives with multi-billion-dollar agencies. J. Walter Thompson on his methodologies empowering Marine recruiters to become and brand ambassadors and amplify the Marine Corps story, enabling the recruitment of America's next generation of U.S. Marines. Now, Dan is renowned for his creative ability to build brand equity through digital marketing, including podcasts, video, social media, and exponentially scaling marketing efforts with brand ambassador programs and influencer strategies. He's born in Salt Lake City, Utah. Dan now resides in San Antonio, Texas. He's most proud and passionate about his role as a husband and a father of 3. There's nothing he loves more than spending quality time with his family. And Ambitious Vet, I guess got to tell you, he pours his heart out inside of this podcast. I mean, I know Dan from when I was just getting out of the Marine Corps and listening to his Military Entrepreneur podcast, which I'll put the link to that in the comments below, or the show notes below. But guys, he really does pour his heart out in here and talks about the power of being convicted in your brand and how to be consistent that creates consistent opportunity, how to deal with challenges as they arise, and how to pivot and equip yourself for success moving forward. He goes over the diligence and how diligence is ultimately consistently long-term profitable for your personal brand. And, he also talks about how to be more proactive with burnout. Us as ambitious vets, when we're out there in the trenches, sometimes we can burn out. Sometimes we don't take the time to reflect. He talks about real life strategies and examples of how he gets ahead of the burnout and gets out there in the trenches and actually finds ways to reflect, recharge, and refuel, guys. His golden grenades are something to write down and apply immediately, guys. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the trenches with Dan Evans. Dan Evans, are you there, brother?
I am here.
Welcome to the Ambitious Vet, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris.
All right, brother. So can you go ahead and fill that introduction and tell us a little bit about who you are as just a person, man?
My name is Dan Evans, and I live in San Antonio. Family is first. Marine is that title never goes away, but certainly it's very, very important. And I'm very, very proud of my service and very excited to be on this show here and share some nuggets of wisdom with your listeners.
Come on, man. We're excited for the golden nuggets. We call them golden grenades here, but we're excited for them, man. And, you've done a lot with your life, man. I mean, how long have you been out right now since from the Marine Corps? How long have you been out now?
Been out about 2.5 years, about 3 years, going on 3 years now. Like you mentioned in the introduction, I left the Marine Corps and went right to USAA. And that was quite the transition out of the Marines as a gunnery sergeant. I would say, that typically doesn't happen. And I put a lot of prep work in between, in the last 3 years of my service in, building a reputation, learning a lot of new things, working really, really hard on myself, and also finding opportunities within the Marine Corps to innovate, to invent, and to use what I was doing in the military to help propel me forward in my next career.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you kind of walk us through that process? Because like you said, I mean, landing pretty much just creating your own role inside of a major organization like that doesn't happen. Can you kind of dive into kind of your transitional process as, a gunnery sergeant and kind of walk us through that process and how you started creating that opportunity for yourself?
Yeah. So I started out in the Marine Corps Reserve. I came into a recruiting office in 2005 to get some stickers for my new vehicle as a reservist. and I got recruited to be a recruiter. So,
Nice.
said, hey, you'd be pretty good at this. You should come out and, be on active duty, and you get the active duty pay, you get the BAH. At the time I was, engaged to my now wife, and it seemed like a pretty good plan. And quite honestly, being a reserve Marine, it was very challenging for me to, put on the Marine hat for a weekend and then go back to regular work 29 days out of the month, and then, do that process all over. It was really kind of an interesting transition. I call it, kind of fate. It was my destiny to walk in the recruiting office on that interesting day back in 2005 and be recruited. So I became a canvassing recruiter, got selected to go to recruiter school, get the B billet MOS. As a sergeant, I was promoted to run a recruiting office. And that was probably the most challenging leadership experience I've ever had in my life, as a sergeant in a staff NCO role, leading other sergeants. And many of them had 5 years on me in age and a lot of experience. They had combat experience. And I realized at that point in time that, I really needed to focus on myself and develop myself into the leader that they expected me to be. So every morning I would listen to like Napoleon Hill or, Stephen Covey or, leadership type things to help get energized for the morning, and come in, hold the morning meeting. And we ended up doing a lot of great things as a recruiting station. So that progressed. I became a staff sergeant. I was frocked to the rank of staff sergeant. I got put in charge of another recruiting office where there were staff sergeants in place, and many of them, again, combat veterans, and who had 10 years on me in age. And it was just an interesting dynamic. My sergeant major would always joke and be like, you're the only staff sergeant I've ever seen frocked. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. So we took that recruiting station. It was doing pretty well. We started doing some innovative things. Around 2011, 2000 timeframe, it became increasingly difficult to get in touch with our target market of high school aged young men and women. And just kind of up and coming was this thing called Facebook. And I saw an opportunity to start showcasing the stories of the young men and women who decided to make the decision and serve our country. So we would take pictures, we'd post them on our business page, our Facebook business page for our recruiting substation. And we realized real quick that these stories were going viral in the local community. And that was helping bridge that gap between what the general public thought we did in the military and in Utah, this highly, religious community of Mormons who, at age 18, 19, it is tradition to go and serve a 2-year proselyting mission. And here we were, and, Marine recruiters were like, hey, you can, go and serve your country and also serve your mission by doing the reserves. And this was an opportunity for us to not just tell people, but show like, hey, we've got an actual Marine here who is both a Mormon missionary as well as a United States Marine, and able to do some great things with their life. So I was in 2013, I was at a change of command ceremony, and the colonel there for our region hit me up and said, hey, do you want to be my social media director? And
wow.
I said, sure. I had orders within 30 days. We moved Ricky Tick down to San Diego, California. And that's how I got the job as social media director.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, man. I love that story, man, because, you actually, one thing that, I attended a Roger Hamilton event last Tuesday out here in San Diego, California. He's like a futuristic guy and can capture opportunities and trends that are out there before other people can. And I think that's a skill set that really can't be taught. It's kind of intuitive. And it kind of looks like that's what you've been able to do no matter what, like, opportunities come your way. And like, is that kind of like what you started seeing in yourself as you started getting opportunity, building blocks of opportunity after you get out of the uniform? Was this like, wow, I'm really good at spotting trends and capitalizing and bringing what's missing inside of organizations? Is that kind of what you started? Is that how you found purpose?
I wouldn't necessarily call it purpose, but I'm just kind of like a nerd and a geek, and I'm always looking for ways to leverage technology to do various things. Like in around 2010, I was taking a entrepreneurship class at Utah Valley University. And at the time, like cord cutting or getting rid of cable was like a brand new thing. And I was one of the very first people to order a Chromecast, the Chromecast thing. And so you could stream like your YouTube and stream stuff from your computer on your TV. And, so I created a blog and a bunch of affiliate marketing and stuff like that, just kind of geeked out. So, I've been able to see some trends like that. I've always been on top of, like the technology aspect of things, the marketing aspect of things, and been able to kind of pick up on how people are behaving on certain social media platforms and find ways to exploit it in a positive way.
Wow, that's awesome, man. And it is. I mean, it's kind of like you being able to see something that no other person sees with the resources that they have, and being able to like, bring in that makes the difference in their mission, right? Because I tell a lot of ambitious vets inside the tribe that really all you are is problem solving when you go out. And it's actually just finding what you already have, the knowledge that you've already gained, and how do you actually spot new problems to solve. And it sounds like for yourself, I mean, you just were able to leverage technology and actually empower organizations versus having like, technology and, us power technology, I think is the term, right? We don't want Facebook to suck our time out of our day. We want to help leverage Facebook and take time away from us, but leverage Facebook, right? So it sounds like that's how you think. And that's
and not only that, I mean, it's all about telling a story in an authentic way. Like nobody wants to be sold anything. Nobody wants to, have that super hard closer, twists their arm to buy a product or service. But what people do like to do is buy. People do like to buy things. And that decision has to come from them. And as a marketer, I think we have an obligation to help people understand what it is your offering is and how that can benefit them, and do that in a very organic way.
Yeah. No, and I mean, you've done a great job of it. I mean, no matter where you go, it seems like things are shake and move. Like you're really good at, building a personal brand, but also how do you develop a business brand off of a personal brand, stuff like that. And it's just, you've been able to really leverage technology, and I love it. So, I don't mean to kind of kill the mood a little bit, but I want to kind of switch gears. I want some real stuff. I want to hear, like, not to say that what's already been said is real, but really just like, what's been like your biggest failure, since you've gotten out, and kind of what have you learned from that so far?
Well, there's no shortage of failures for sure. I mean, if any marketer is being honest, they would say the majority of their marketing campaigns, don't perform well, but it's up to, you or the marketer to kind of look and see and be like, hey, well, why didn't this perform well, and unpack that. But aside from that, from a military standpoint, and a Marine standpoint, like I waited 2.5 years to do my VA claim. And that was just silly. Like I literally left a ton of money on the table. Like I would have enough money to get a Tesla had I just, spent a little bit of time during that transitionary period, towards the end of my service, and gotten it done. I mean, heck, man, I had 60 days of terminal leave that, I was traveling around and visiting people. I could have done it then. So that's a huge failure in my book. Like I should have just got it done, but I had convinced myself that my number one priority was getting a job, when realistically speaking, I could have put aside a day or something and really got that hammered out and taken care of. So if you're listening to this and you have not done your VA claim, go and do your VA claim. Get it done. Find the DAV nearest you or whatever veteran service organization and get it done.
Yeah, because it's harder to get it the longer you've been out, right?
It is. It is harder. Yeah. And fortunately, I kept good records, so it made the process a little bit easier.
Nice. Well, good for you. Documentation is even important, even when you're out of the uniform, just in daily life, documenting stuff, journaling,
Exactly.
business, like just documenting stuff. One of the best proactive habits that I've been able to develop, and you can add on to this, Dan, but I mean, it's just being able to document, like whenever you're working with somebody and what they say they're going to do, just document it. So later on, you have that in writing or an email form or something like that. And it just makes a better difference whenever, someone that you may be just getting into a relationship with may kind of back out of. So documentation is definitely a great habit, not even to stop, to just stop when you get out of your respective branches of like document your medical. It really is a good habit to establish because it gets you ahead of a lot of landmines or problems that could come up in life later. Always make sure you guys are documenting the things that may cost you money or emotion time or something later. I definitely.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if you're not doing these things and something comes up, you're basically, gypping your family, and that's, so that's a big mistake that I made. I've finally made it right though. So.
Come on, man. Come on. I love it. So brother, I mean, what do you see as the biggest challenge for like an ambitious vet that's getting out and he's just like, you know what, you're being military active member, serving the country was great. And like, I'm just going to use that as a stepping stone for what's the next milestone in my life. What do you think is the biggest challenge for someone like that gets out and becoming more and actually attracting more opportunity after the military?
I think probably the biggest challenge is not necessarily knowing exactly what you want and not knowing what's on the other side of your service as you're preparing for that transition. In order to do that, you need to talk with a lot of people. Something that worked well for me, and this was advice that was given to me from multiple mentors that I had, was just reach out to people and do informational interviews. Understand what their day is like within the workplace. In fact, there was a really good book. It's called What Color is Your Parachute? And it has a number of different exercises that you can go through. And you literally identify like the things that you enjoy about your work, the things that you absolutely hate about your work, the things, what types of environments are you able to do like the highest quality work possible? How much money do you need? And that way, at least when you're getting out, like you have a general idea of what to look for. And in my experience, getting out and doing interviews with particular employers, I knew like where that line in the sand was, where I wouldn't budge on certain things and where there was some flexibility. I was doing a networking event in San Diego. And first off, I hate networking events and I'm not even sure why. But it's like this awkward thing where everybody's kind of, passing out business cards, and it's not really my thing, but I get why people do it. So anyway, I'm at this networking event, and I happened to, find a fellow Marine who is a recruiter for this large Fortune 100 company. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, are the rumors about your company true? Because they had this reputation of running people into the dirt and working them hard and putting them away wet. And, he was kind of mean, kind of a jerk about it, man. He was like, if somebody invites you to one of these networking events, you play it all the way through until you get the offer. And then it occurred to me, for me, I had identified that family time was important. My last 3 years in the Marine Corps, I traveled 2 to 3 weeks a month and ate a steady diet of hotel bacon and stayed in every Hilton chain possible. So I knew that I didn't want to travel a whole ton. And it occurred to me at that very moment that it was a Friday night, and this guy, I'd done a little bit of homework on him. has a wife and a baby in another state, and he was spending his Friday evening doing a networking event, not with his family. And I'm like, this isn't for me. This company is not for me. So had I not done that exercise, I would, I've talked to a lot of veterans, and a lot of them take like the first thing that comes their way. And it just doesn't have to be that way. You need to really focus on creating a lot of connections, building a lot of relationships. So when that time does come where you're getting ready to transition, you have at least a few things that you can choose from. And certainly that was the case for me, but that took a lot of work. That was, while I was traveling 2 to 3 weeks out of the month, I was spending my evenings, doing a podcast. I did a podcast for a couple of years, the Military Entrepreneur Show, much like you, where I interview veteran business people and entrepreneurs and talked about their recipes for success and tried to glean some insights from that process. Everybody else that I was serving with and traveling with, they were down in the hotel bar watching football or sports or whatever. I was in my hotel room, working on podcasts, having conversations with employers that I had selected that I felt would be a good match for me.
Yeah, I love that. And it sounds like you took informational interviewing to a whole nother level. You just create a podcast. You were doing the informational interviews just through a platform that creates win-win. And, I think, even a lot of people that, look at our brand here, they're just like, well, Chris Hoffman, he's a podcaster. No, I use it as a way to build strategic partnerships with high-level people and create that win-win. And you'd be surprised where the conversation goes when you're constantly figuring out how do you serve others, add value in their life and stuff like that. So, brother, I mean, that's awesome. I love how you thought big, you went after it. And I mean, you didn't conform to your environment. I mean, serving 13 years in the Marine Corps, a lot of people would be putting on their proud U.S. veteran hat and, going to the VA once a week or something like that. But you weren't one of those guys, man. You actually wanted to learn, gain the insights, and grow into who was next out of the uniform. So I acknowledge you for that. So, brother, one of the buzzwords I constantly hear when I talk to people like Heather Dobson, when I go to the Military Infantry Conference, anytime someone's talking about, Dan Evans, it's personal branding, right? Like you're known for that. And it's funny because we were sharing offline before we went live here. And, I was just like, wow, like this guy doesn't go attend any networking events, but yet his name gets brought up in all of them. So, you got to make some kind of an impact for that to happen, right? So I'd be thinking about how do you become that person, right? If you're listening to this or watching this, but what does like brand equity or personal branding mean to Dan Evans?
Let's just take the word brand equity out of it. Let's just talk about your reputation. Your social media presences are reflective of you, whether you like it or not, and that is either a lack of participation or plenty of participation. So are you setting the right example? Are you projecting who you are as a person? And I always had the philosophy, that I would just be who I am. And I'm going to attract opportunities to myself. And I'm going to also repel opportunities based off of just being me, being myself. So if you look at it that way, you really have absolutely nothing to lose. So in the military, in the Marine Corps, especially, you might've heard this, Chris, have you ever had a sergeant major or a master gunny come out and say, hey, if somebody convicted you of being a Marine, would there be enough evidence? Or if somebody accused you of being a Marine, would there be enough evidence to convict you? Well, your personal brand should be exactly like that. Like if you say you're an expert communicator or you're an expert marketer, everything that you say you should do, everything that your resume says that you do, there should be some kind of evidence to convict you of that, to prove that you do in fact know your stuff, that you are a professional, that you are a family man or a family woman, what have you. Like, does it tell that story? So for me, something that I've always just really embraced is just showcasing just myself. Like, for example, this last weekend, I went and floated the river and I created a short little video and posted it on LinkedIn. And I was just talking about resilience and what that meant to me, and gave a shout out to one of my colleagues at my place of work, who inspired me to kind of take time and do that mind, body, spirit exercise and just pause and reflect and think and just breathe, because like many ambitious vets, I think all of us get a little, high strung, and we're very ambitious and we're always pushing. And sometimes that can lead to burnout if we're not careful. So for me, I shared that little video. I wasn't planning on doing that. It just kind of happened. And it was a natural, organic thought. It wasn't forced. I was just sharing my point of view on that, and also giving a nod to the person who helped inspire me get that way. And I think, there are things inside of us that we want to share with people. And if you have that conviction inside of you that you should share a particular piece of knowledge or wisdom or insight, like, don't go to the grave with the music still inside of you. You got to let that out. What's the book by Pressfield, The War of Art? No, it's The War of Art.
Oh, got it. All right.
So Stephen Pressfield talks about this notion of the resistance, and the resistance is that little voice that sits on your shoulder that's like, hey, you don't need to do this, or you're not good enough to share your story on LinkedIn, or share your insights. Like, nobody's going to listen to you. Like, had I listened to the resistance, the majority of the time, I would have never had the opportunities that I've had up to this point. So, not to say that the resistance doesn't creep in from time to time, because it does. It never goes away. That evil jerk is just constantly just barking away on my shoulder, and he's on everybody's shoulder. And I think that is the fundamental, like, drawback, or the barrier or constraint for veterans, is they're like, well, I don't have anything valuable to share or valuable to say. That's just not true. Share your experience. Share what you learned from that 30-mile ruck run. Share what you learned from what you learned from running a marathon, what you learned from, recon, serving in the recon battalion. Share those types of things. Those things are interesting, and if you're back in the rear with the gear, chances are there's probably some stories that you can share also that are relevant and that can help impact. And the way I've always looked at it, Chris, is if I'm sharing something and I have the ability to impact one person, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
So, I may turn away or turn off some people, and they may not like me for it, but I'm okay with that, because I am being me. And at the end of the day, like, I'm not trying to be anybody else. I'm trying to be me.
That's huge. Just be yourself, ambitious vets. If you're listening to this on the podcast or watching this live, how do you be yourself, and how you just provide consistent content around who you are? Who do you want to be? Right. So, Dan Evans, man, I want to ask you this powerful question before we get into 3 golden grenades. I mean, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what does Dan Evans want to be known for?
Just making an impact, first and foremost, with my family. One of the biggest reasons why I got out of the Marine Corps is because the Marine Corps was a mistress. It was taking me away from all the things that I loved most, my wife, my family. Like, I missed multiple years in a row of my kids' last day of school, because every year there was a conference that I had to go to every single year. And for me, I looked around, I looked, at the 22, 23-year-old or 23 years of service folks in the military who are in my particular military occupational specialty, at least several of them. And I realized that the choices that they had made and the impact to their families was not something that I wanted to have. And for me, that would be a lot of regret. So first and foremost, impact to family. Secondly, impact the world, giving back, making a positive impact, focusing on, being grateful. I've been blessed with a lot. And for me, I just want to be able to pay that forward and help people as they helped me make it through my transition out of the military. The way I look at a military transition, it's the first of many. We are constantly evolving as people, as professionals, and I will not be the same person 10 years from now. What is it Matthew McConaughey said during one of his presentations? He's like, I'm chasing the guy, I'm chasing myself, the guy 10 years from now or whatever, because that guy, is better than today. So I think that's a good mindset to have, because if you set your sights on trying to, chase somebody else, once you get there, you're going to be disappointed, because, that's as far as you're going to go. You don't want to cap out. You don't want to peak, 5 years out of the military. You want to continue to grow and evolve.
Yeah, I love it. I love how you created it as a way that it's not like an end destination. You're never going to get somewhere. It's more of the journey. It's the process. It's how am I impacting my family today, if that's what you want to be known for, because ultimately it all builds up. So I love the perspective that you brought. So Dan, we got a tradition here, man. We got the 3 golden grenades question. What are 3 golden grenades? You've brought tons of golden grenades already, but what would be 3 golden grenades that you would drop into the tribe live and for the podcast listeners to listen to? What would be 3 golden grenades you drop in right now that can make immediate impact and then becoming more sooner in their life or business?
So first and foremost, find 5 good mentors. I think that's important in any kind of professional capacity. In the military, we're issued mentors. When we go to an MOS school, your staff sergeant, your gunnery sergeant, your sergeant major, they're your mentors. Like them or hate them, but they're your mentors. In the professional space, you have the ability to choose who your mentors can be. So find 5 good people that can be your trusted advisors and tell you when you're messed up. They can point you in the right direction. They can help you be a coach. They're on the sideline, coaching you, the QB of your life, get you realigned with the direction you need to go. The second thing would be always be learning. You always got to be learning new things, reading books. I'm a voracious reader. There's a lot of books here behind me. For those of you who are listening to this and can't see, there are a lot of books behind me. And I have another wall full of books. I'm a voracious reader. I listen to books on Audible. I'm always listening to podcasts, listening to people who are smarter than me on these mediums, including YouTube also as well. So I think that is fundamental to getting to where you want to go, because if you read a book and you don't agree with maybe 99% of it, but that 1% of that book or that one paragraph that makes an impact that drastically changes your trajectory, literally, you just changed the entire trajectory of your life for like $15. There is no better education than just picking up a book. Read the reviews on Amazon, ask for recommendations. Those are some things that will really help you. And then 3, spend time with your family. Family is that should be number 1. But for the context of this interview, like, your family is first and foremost, the most important thing. Always invest time in calling, your loved ones, spending time with your children, spending time with your spouse. Make that time, because just like anything else, if you don't carve out that time, and if you're ambitious, it is a kind of a problem at times when it's 6 p.m. and you're still slaving away in front of the computer, or slaving away doing some kind of work, or trying to constantly be ambitious and move the needle forward. You got to pause sometimes, and you need to invest time in those relationships, because if those relationships aren't there, I promise you, it will hinder your ability to get where you want to go. So those are my 3 golden grenades.
That's awesome, man. I love the whole, like you said, the context around this is really building, relationships, but also digging for the gold in everything that you do. I mean, I heard the word diligence behind what you're actually saying too, is just like really, digging for gold in the books you're reading, doing the diligence and figuring out what is the thing that you want to be following right then and there, or what you need to be reading, studying and stuff like that. And also just making the time to create small magical moments with family that's ultimately been there from the beginning, and they'll probably be there till the end if they like you, right? So
That's right.
Dan Evans, man, how can people figure out more about you? How can they connect with you, man? How can ambitious vets come figure out more about Dan Evans?
So feel free to check out my website, danevansonline.com. I have some articles there. I have all my podcasts there. Feel free to give them a listen. There's a really good one. I think it's in the 50s, where my wife and I talked about transitioning out of the military. And every once in a while, I'll go back and listen to that because, that was just, it's like a time capsule. I'm hearing my own voice, I'm hearing my wife's voice, and it brings back all those emotions for me of, how challenging that particular moment in our lives were. It was very tough, dealing with a lot of perceptions about military, especially, I was interviewing at some big technology companies, well-known technology companies. And I feel like, in some cases, my background was undervalued. And that was tough, and at times my wife would look at me as an E7 and be like, well, why are you getting out? This is a sure thing, like you're well on your way to retirement. Like, why are you doing this? And I just felt like I needed to trudge forward, but she, was very, very supportive, but, that resistance in my own brain and in her brain, sometimes made it pretty tough. But yeah, check out that episode. Also connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Evans Daniel J. That is my handle on Twitter and Instagram. Shoot me a tweet if this podcast made an impact.
Oh man, I think it did, Dan. And I'll have all these links in the show notes below for those of you guys that are listening. And those of you who are live, I'll post all those links in the comments below. If you guys just got one golden grenade from this, I want you guys to go share this and pretty much tag me and Dan inside that social post and write down what was the top golden grenade, so we know that we're making an impact in your next mission, and really just helping you narrow that gap and getting that occupation procedure you're looking for, that increase in income, or maybe it's just a life satisfaction that you're looking for. We want to help you do that. So Dan, brother, I just want to thank you, man, for taking the time. You're a family man, you're grinding, and your brand new CMO role inside of this company, man, your time's extremely valuable, and you've really paved the way for a lot of us ambitious vets. And I just want to thank you for doing that, but also just thank you for making the time and joining the Ambitious Vet Show today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for all you're doing for our fellow brothers and sisters.
Hoorah, brother. Well, there you have it, Ambitious Vet, episode number 55 with Dan Evans. If you just got one golden grenade from this, do us all a favor and yourself a favor and share that onto your social media outlets. If it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it is, and tag me and Dan Evans inside that post so we know that we're providing you the value that's pushing the needle forward in your life and increasing your occupation prestige, income, or maybe it's just your life satisfaction. Some of you guys are just looking to how do I increase my happiness, my fulfillment on a daily basis, and I totally got it. So if you just got one golden grenade that you're going to apply this next week, declare it out into the world on social media so we can hold you accountable and check in with you on that. You'd be surprised. I follow up on all that stuff. If you haven't already, subscribe, rate, review the podcast. Feedback is what allows anything to improve in life, and we want to improve in the trenches with you. So meet us in the middle and let's get better together. Sound good? Lastly, I already know that you're warrior made, but to become passion driven, utilize this one golden grenade you heard today, Ambitious Vet, and you will find your life being more meaningful and fulfilling. Let's go get it.